Hey, hey, what's up guys? Mendel here. So on a YouTube post, I created a poll and asked you guys like, hey, what do you want to see on this channel? Like, what do you want to see basically? And a lot of you guys said like, yeah, mixing and mastering kind of stuff. So here we go, how to master Mendel. Let's do it, let's dig right in. All right, so here we are. So before we continue, if it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Mendel Leij. I live in the Netherlands. I love mixing and mastering metal bands and I compose. And I hope you enjoy the video. And if you do, then don't hesitate to like subscribe and hit the thumbs up and leave a comment, because I read through every single comment and I answer them, so we can like hang out in the comment section. So again, welcome, enjoy the video. So here we are in my project for my song Visions. Now, the song Visions is from my 2015 solo album called Oblivion. And last year in 2020, I remixed, remastered, reamped the whole album. And this is the new version. And that album is called Neo-Oblivion. Get it? Neo, Greek word, Neo means new, Neo-Oblivion, get it? Anyway, so we're gonna master that track. The only thing I have on the master bus at the moment is the Pro L2 limiter to make sure everything's up to level, so you don't have to like turn your volume knob all the way down and stuff like that for the entire video. Okay, so the only thing we have on the master bus is the limiter, and let's take a listen to the intro. So that's the mix without the master bus processing. To be honest, when I start mixing, I always have like a bus compressor on the master bus. Mainly because I like the sound of mixing into a bus compressor and a limiter just to keep everything on level, so I know what I'm getting myself into in the end, or how it's going to sound when I'm going to master. Mostly. Right, okay, so I have some notes what I did on this album, and if you want I can show you the exact project in another video of the mastering session, but I thought it would be cool to like how I would master it now, because I recalibrated my speakers with SonarWorks, so the original master would sound kind of different here in my studio, so I thought it would be cool to how it would sound if we're going to master it from scratch, and I could explain my whole thought process through it. So, but I do have some notes over here on what I did on the master. So the first thing I had on here, and I haven't used this plugin in a while to be honest, is the Slate Digital Virtual Tape Machine. This baby right here. But as I was saying, I haven't used this in a while to be honest. I did a lot of mastering without it, but for this song I liked how it sounded on this setting. So let's compare it. So let's just loop the intro. So this is the thing without it, and I'll turn it on halfway. That's on. I really like what it does with the mid-range. So years ago I used it like this, but for this mix it was too bright. But when I started using this, it's almost a boost like some lower mids and mids. Like, let's compare these two, but this is what I used on the album. especially when you focus on the cymbals, you can hear like a big difference. Right, so that was the first thing. What I sometimes use is the Slate Digital like the mix bus, like the gray thingy, but I didn't use it on this album. Like sometimes I use this one instead of the tape machine, to be honest. Like it's a virtual mix bus and it has like different, like you can put it on a channel. I used to do that. Now, most of the time I only use this on the master bus or sometimes on the drum bus or the guitar bus. Like just this one without the channels on every channel of the mix. It's really subtle, at least to my ears it's really subtle. It has something in my eye, I think a fly in my eye. But I like it on like the SSL one with the drive around 6 and 9. Again, some more about the mix. It's more subtle than the virtual tape machine, but it's a virtual tape machine. Now here comes my favorite thing, the Slate Digital FG-Grey, which is a SSL bus compressor. These are the settings I used, and this is basically the settings I use on a lot of albums I mix and master. Ratio 4, release like around 0.04, sometimes on, I would say soms zet ik hem op automatisch. Dutch. Anyway, soms on auto, Jesus Christ, sometimes on auto, but most of the time on 0.4, and fast is like on 3 or 10 milliseconds. This one is 10 milliseconds. And this has a big influence on the whole mix, especially the snare. Like, focus on the snare when I turn up the threshold. To say because such a cliche, but it's true. It glues the mix together, whatever that means. But it makes everything go into the pocket, like how I like to say it. And I like to have the how it sounds, like around 3 decibels of gain reduction. Actually, to be honest, I compared, I think, about 6 or 7 different SSL bus compressor plugins from UAD and from SSL themselves, which is called SSL Native, I think, because it's on the CPU. I can't remember. Track Comp, I believe, a lot of them. And to my ears, the UAD and the FG-Grey sounded the best, at least to my ears. That's my opinion. But I like how it sounds on this mix. So then what I do is some multi-band compression. Now it depends on the project what I do. Most of the time I just put this band here, put it on dynamic phase, and just keep the low end a tiny bit in check. And I also do this in Ozone, or Ozone does it automatically, but we'll get into that into a bit. But what I like to do is to keep the low end like tiny bit compressed. What I also like to do is have a setting called 4-range linear, so it's in linear phase, and it basically goes to all the bands. So if I would overdo it, but normally I use it like, you can see over here when the snare is peaking out, it like compressed it a bit around that area. careful with the solo function because it can really ruin your perspective on the mix. But just showcase it for the mix. Alright, and then we have, let's see, oh yeah, the Pro-Q3. This is a really cool plugin. So what I do most of the time with this, and like, this can change on every master, but this is how I did it on mastering this album, The Oblivion. So I use a filter around 30 Hertz for that excessive low end, if there is any. But on some good speakers, you can probably hear this. Because of the kick build up and the bass build up and perhaps some like sound effects build up, all on the master bus, just filter off like everything below 30 Hertz or sometimes 20 Hertz, depends on the project. And most of the time, and I can definitely hear it now, there are some like upper mid frequencies or high frequencies building up. And be careful doing this again, because with this, you can easily like destroy your whole perspective. But because it's a demonstration video, I like to show it like this. That one. And I hear something. That's what I'm hearing. Like I can hear this frequency through the mix. And be careful with notching down, because if you like notch across the whole mix, your mix will be ruined easily. But these two clean up the mix in my opinion. Like I'll filter off everything so we can just focus like on this higher mids, just for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to filter everything off. Now focus on these frequencies. Like turning, like pushing a button that like turns some nastiness on and off. Big difference, but be careful with that kind of stuff. Alright, so then what I have? Oh yeah, I had Sooth 2. So I know I notched some of those frequencies, those were the most excessive ones. This is like to tiny, like subtly adjust them. To be honest, I could probably use the Sooth 2 and then ditch Pro-Q3 except for the filter, but like those two tiny notches could probably be this and be just done with this. If you don't know this plugin, if I'm correct, it's based on human hearing and it ducks down the nasty frequencies. So this is not like a boost of a Q, rather this is like how much of that frequency area is going to be ducked. So I'm going to press play and take a focus on this. So when I turn this down, it's going to do less work around that area. When I put it up, this is the overall depth. Now also be careful with this, because this can really ruin your perspective. Because if I would do this, listen to it for a while, and then pull it back, then when I put it back, because my ears are used to this position now, this could sound too harsh, while in reality this could be even like okay, if it makes any sense. So you can hear that edge coming in, but that edge is actually pleasant. Like that's the bite of the mix that you want to keep. There, and then I put it on off sampling ×4 oversample. So when it exports, it uses ×4 on the oversampling. So then we're gonna go to Ozone. So sometimes I master just using Ozone. If you want if you would like a video on me just using Ozone, let me know in the comments or give us a thumbs up. I'll definitely do it. But on this mix, what I like to do is what I like to do is use the Master Assistant. Now beware, so I'm gonna put the limiter off, or turn the limiter off, because during the Master Assistant it's gonna put a limiter on it, so it's gonna make the mix really loud. So attention, turn down your volume knobs when I say so, not yet, but when I say so, so it won't destroy your ears. But I like to use Master Assistant because on this mix I was referencing to Chimera's Resurrection. I can't play the track itself, but because of YouTube stuff, but that's the referencing, and basically the Master Assistant is comparing that, like your reference track, which is in this case Chimera Resurrection, to your track, and then try to get the overall balance in check, like get them together. That makes sense. You know what I mean, right? I'm going to turn off this maximizer now. I'm going to turn back on my own limiter, and we're going to check what it did. So the thing I really love about the Master Assistant is basically the dynamic EQ. So it looks for like where the buildup is compared to the other mix, and then it fixes them. So when I solo it, like those frequencies, I can definitely see around here that's like mostly focusing on the snare. Here's probably some high buildup. Yeah. So when we turn that off and on again, to my ears, at least here in this room, it's creating more clarity, especially in the low mids when the snare is playing. And it balances the whole overall mix with an overall EQ. So I can see that the mid-range was pretty good compared to the Chimera song, because I also use it as a reference track. But in the lows, it was boosting some, as you can see, and in the highs, it was like reducing some. So let's compare that. So I can hear more kick oomph. So perhaps I used a tiny bit too much of that on a Pro MB, but over here, I like what I'm hearing. Another cool thing is, and I could probably ditch the Pro MB if I was using only on the kick, but it also does that compression on the low end. I don't know why it automatically turns off everything after using the Master Assistant, but I really like what it's doing. Not doing a lot, but still some. Alright, so now we get to one of my favorite tools that I wish I had when I was mastering this album, called Flatline from Submission Audio. So this is basically an advanced clipper. So for those of you who don't know what clipping is, and I was first skeptical about this plugin, I'll be honest, but now I've fallen in love with it. I really like this. So Basically, if I have like audio peaks, hard clipping would be shaving off that peak like that. So this would become this, and then you would have like more headroom, right? And then when you have soft clipping, instead of like being really hard, like shaving it off, it would be more like, well, basically what the word says, like softer. So that soft shape can be done with this. But basically, by using a good clipper, you can get your mixes louder, and it also shapes the sound a bit, how you set it. So what I'll do is I'll turn off my limiter, and I'm gonna use the limiter on the end of my mastering chain. And sometimes I use it the other way around. Sometimes on some mixes I use the limiter and then use the flatline at the end. But for this song, we use it this way. So this is the nice shape. So this is hard clipping. So it's like shave, like shaving it off, like no mojo, as I would say. And this basically controls how much of soft clipping. So this is full soft clipping, and this is full hard clipping. As you can see, 100% is hard clipping, 0% is soft clipping, and you can basically put it where you want. So now this mix is going to be lower in volume because I turned the limiter off. Let's do some clipping. So I use this function, so it also simultaneously adjusts the output, right? So if we use like this, it would be clipping without like adjusting the volume. And then when I use this cool function, it also adjusts the output simultaneously. You can see over here, these peaks, that's where the clipping starts. And this is like a good clipping. And like the cool thing about it, like when I put it on 75%, like I'm getting, it still sounds amazing to me, and I could go like onto. But that's where I think it's way too much. So my mix is becoming really loud, it's sounding punchy, but the transients are still there. And that's something with most limiters, like you can't really keep. Try putting, and I know it's an older plugin, but try putting like an L2 from Waves on the master bus and putting it loud, all your transients will be lost. But with this, all like the information is still there. And that's so amazing about this plugin, in my opinion. Most of the time I'm aiming for like a -6 LUFS. So let's turn the shape all the way down so you can really hear the difference. So this is soft clipping. So you can hear some transients are getting more lost. It's sounding more softer. So the shaving is a bit more, I would say, like, well, softer. That's the only word that comes to my head. Still sounds good though. And let's see what it does when I turn up the shape knob. So when we compare, put it around 80%. And now I'll use the limiter just so it keeps like the final stuff in check. right, and that's basically how I did it on this album. Again, I really wish I had the Flatline plugin back then, so I could master, so I could use it on the so I could use it when I was mastering Neo Oblivion. But I have it now, and I like how it sounds on my master, so this is never gonna go away. Also, the cool thing about it is you have the oversampling function, but like you heard, like when I was using the shape tool, it sounds phenomenal. But that's my opinion. But hopefully you agree with me. All right, so that's basically it. Hopefully you learned something today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and leave me a comment down below so we can talk about mastering, and I'll try to answer all of your questions. My name is Mendel, and see you next time, guys. Cheers.